Good morning, Annie.
This is
How
awesome. Oh, and good morning, Facebook world. I love you dearly. It's so good to be back. I had another title for this talk, but I used it last week, so I didn't want to use two of the same titles in a row. My other title is Does It Really Have to Be This Way? Right? I'm going to be talking to you this morning about divine order. Right? It just feels like sometimes, some days I wake up and everything just seems so messy. You ever feel that way? In this world that we're now living in, it just feels so messy a lot of the time, not just some of it. And or sometimes I look at something and it seems almost ugly or confusing or frustrating or whatever, and it made me think about the phrase divine order. Now, I'm not referring to the power of order, right? The power of order in general, as one of our 12 powers, is that it's our ability to balance, order, sequence things, right? And they fall into a good, orderly format. But I'm talking about divine order in general, that larger than life principle of everything is unfolding as it should be, right? Which can be a little challenging sometimes if you just look at the surface. So here's my question. Have you ever looked back upon events in your life and tried to figure out why things happened the way they did? Why they unfolded the way they did? Have you ever looked back in amazement at the divine choreography that came about? Right? That's where we're going today. Okay? And I'm going to encourage you to, throughout the course of the week, 2 weeks, month, whatever you want, take a look at these ideas that I'm going to present to you. Okay? I'm not telling you that you have to be on the same page as I am. Okay? I was talking to a friend of mine whose wife just got accepted to the ministerial program at UWSI. And she said to me, I can't wait to be a preacher's wife. She was very excited about this. And which is wonderful. It's great to feel that enthusiasm through the phone, you know what I mean? And that got me thinking about preaching. I am not up here in front of you today or any day preaching. Okay? And that's why I don't ever call my talks lessons even. I don't talk about them being sermons. I'm just chatting with you. I'm sharing some things that are going on inside of my head that I thought I should get out of my head so you can have it. And but things to think about. Right? Just things to ponder. We don't have to debate it. We don't have to argue about it, but we can think about it and see where these ideas take you to. Okay? So, all right. I'm just going to do that. Okay. So, there's a quote that says, change is always happening. One named Maya Dewar. And that, I think we can all agree on that, right? That change is always happening, right? And Lowell Fillmore, who is one of the sons of Charles and Myrtle, said, every tiny speck of matter is constructed in a beautiful, orderly way. So think about it for a second, scientifically speaking. We're on this planet that is spinning at an incredible rate of speed, that is going around the sun at another incredible rate of speed. And yet we're not flying off, except if we're a cat and we're knocking something off the table, right? So here we are, and every bit of our bodies, I mean, there's 1 billion neurons in our brains alone. Think about it. If there's just one thing that is different or not working right, it could throw this entire this whole planet into the universe, right? It's incredible how much orderly direction there is in all that we're experiencing on a human level. And divine order is described as that first law of the universe. It says there could be no universe unless its various parts were kept in perfect order. Right? Okay. So now I'm going to take you to the Bible. What? Let's talk about the story of Lazarus for just a few minutes. Okay? Imagine for a second, if you don't know the story of Lazarus, Lazarus was the brother of Mary and Martha. And Mary, Martha, and Lazarus were very good friends with Jesus and his apostles. Yes? And they were always hanging out together and things like that. And there's a part in the story in the Bible where Lazarus gets very sick, and Mary and Martha send word to wherever Jesus is and says, hey, Lazarus is really sick. We need you to come back here and help him so he won't get sicker. Right? Jesus gets the word and he says, yeah, okay, we'll wait 2 days. What? He stays where he is for 2 more days. Okay? The apostles look at him. They look like, what do you mean we're going to stay here for 2 more days? Yeah, we're going to stay for 2 more days. Okay. So finally they get to where Lazarus is, and they find out that Lazarus has actually been buried in the tomb for 4 days. 4 days. How would you feel? How would you feel if you were Mary and Martha? How would you feel if you were Lazarus? How would you feel if you were the apostles, one of the apostles? And how would you feel if you were Jesus? Okay? There's lots of characters in this particular story. The beauty of going through Unity teachings, the beauty of getting to put a lesson together is this. I get to share with you this trick that we learned in school. Carmen and I were in classes together. We learned this little trick. We put ourselves in the place of the characters in the story, right? What would it feel like? Mary and Martha go out to greet Jesus when he's almost there, and they're like, if you had just been here, everything would be fine. But now you're here late, and now he's gone, right? The apostles are shaking their heads. I can only imagine. I'm sitting in the background. I'm probably muttering to myself, going, are you kidding me? Why didn't we leave when we found out? Now, would they have gotten there sooner? I don't know, because they only found out and they stayed 2 days, but we don't know how long it took them to travel and all of that stuff. So would they have made it or not? We don't know from the story, and that's okay. We don't need to know. We have our imaginations. We can take ourselves down that way. All right? Okay. Got Lazarus. Can you imagine being so sick? Knowing that your really good friend Jesus can fix it all, and then he doesn't. Ooh. But what about Jesus? For those of you who know about this trick of putting yourselves into the story and becoming one of the characters in the story, do you ever put yourself in the place of Jesus? I kind of tend to shy away from that. I don't know why, but I do. And it's a good idea to try and get yourself into this place of thinking about what would it have been like if I had really been playing out this story, right? Because here's the thing, in the story, Jesus is quoted as saying that, it had to be this way. Like, thank you, Father. I know that you're working through me. And this is when he's in the tomb. He said, but I couldn't do it any other way. Now, why is that? I'm wondering, and this is just speculation on my part, but I'm wondering if, Jesus is going around, he's doing all these miracles, and he's getting a group of followers, but it's not going viral. And he wants to get the message out to more people. And so maybe this was the moment in his ministry where he thinks, I really got to get their attention because I'm not going to be here for a lot longer. And if I go and I heal him as he's sick, that's great. But if I can go and raise him after he's been put in the tomb, maybe that will get their attention. Imagine having to look at the pain in Mary and Martha's eyes. Imagine having to look at the pain in the apostles' eyes, right? Knowing that they think you've failed, that you haven't done your best, that you haven't done what you were supposed to do, and yet you know, and you can't say it, right? You just have to demonstrate it. That's where my mind goes when I think of divine order. If I'm in Jesus' shoes and I need to show this lesson in a particular way, I'm going to get the lesson across. And I'm really sorry that my friend has to be sick and then die and then be buried. But I'm doing my Father's will, so to speak. I'm doing Spirit's will. Things are unfolding as they should. Divine order. In this life, things do not always go the way that I think they should. I don't know if you've ever recognized that before. It might be true in your life too. Not sure. There are certain times when I pray for certain outcomes and they don't happen. Doesn't matter how big or how little it is, but sometimes they don't happen. And when the good things happen, what I used to say is, it must have been divine order. Right? Until like maybe when my dad died last year. Because when I think of divine order, I think of it being universally true for everyone, no matter what. Right? If I'm talking about a spiritual truth in this world, then it must be true for everyone. Kind of like the Christ presence is residing in me, the Christ presence is residing in you. And that's all very easy for me to say standing here with people I like. Right? But when I go out into the real world and I see someone who I don't think is behaving the way they should, guess what? The Christ presence is residing in them too. And that's what a universal spiritual truth is to me. And so the same is true for divine order. I believe that my Father left in the time he was supposed to leave. Divine order to me no longer means that it has to work out my way and then I'm okay with it. Right? There are bigger lessons to be learned. And that's why often, and maybe this has happened for you, I look back on really difficult times in my life, right? And I look back at those things and when my behaviors were not the way they could have been, and I was making mistakes left and right, etc. Everything had to happen the way it did. You've heard me say this so many times. It had to happen in that time frame in order for me to be here with you today. In order to prompt me to go to ministerial school, in order to prompt me to go to become a licensed Unity teacher before that. Everything had to happen the way it did, and that meant that there was a lot of struggle going on in my life. And that somehow there was this huge blessing at the end, but I didn't know it. So when I was in my 30s and my 40s, I had absolutely no idea that I would even consider going into ministry when I was 60. It's ridiculous. You're out of your mind, right? So everything is unfolding the way it should, and that's where I have to start taking my doubts, my fears, and I have to convert them into faith, because every time I have come through, not with the results that I've always wanted, but there have been tremendous blessings in everything that I have gone through, and I wouldn't trade those blessings, right? For instance, in the case of, my dad leaving his body and going to the next part of his journey, I miss him like, crazy. I still want to go call him. I still want to call my mom. She's been gone since 2002. I still want to connect on a human level, but on another level, they're moving through their journey. Who am I to keep them from doing that, right? And yet at the same time, I still have those human emotions that keep me sometimes stuck in what's really happening on earth, so to speak. And that's why I think that this lesson is so important. Because when we think that things have gone wrong, nothing in God's world, I believe, happens by mistake. I really don't believe that. I just don't always see it right away, right? Oh, my goodness. You know, we read the Daily Word this morning, and I thought I misread it this morning. It says, with understanding, my spirit is always cool, man. Cool. Cool. And then, you know, you read through it and you see it, the Bible quote at the bottom is really about the Bible saying it's cool. So, okay. But with understanding, one of the best ways to remain calm in any agitating circumstance is to practice understanding. What does that mean to me? I don't know what that means to you, but to me it means that when I practice understanding, I'm also practicing placing my trust in the divine. Right? I'm not waiting for God, a separate being, to do something for me. I'm placing my trust in the power of the divine that is in me and all around me, and I'm going to get there. Eventually, I'm going to get more understanding. Eventually, I'm going to see what the benefits are and what lessons I've learned and what blessings I've been given. May not see it right away, but I do trust, because the more I look back, the more obvious it is that it has worked out every single time. So I don't say to people anymore when they're going through trials and tribulations, I don't say to them anymore, well, it's divine order. Because that's a little callous to me now. Now that I know what I know and what I'm believing about all of this stuff, it's a little bit harsh to say to someone, well, it's divine order, right? It is. But they don't need to hear that from me right now. What they need to hear from me is, I'm here for you. I will listen. I will support you. We will find a way out of this, whatever is needed. And then inside we'll know it's unfolding in divine order, and I will support. There's billions of stories unfolding every single day in every single person's life, etc. And the tricky part for me is, can I trust? Can I remember to trust that it's unfolding naturally? I don't always see the big picture. I really like to talk about that a lot, because there is a big picture involved, and I don't know what it is all the time. Some of you know that my brother's been very sick these last couple of years, but we didn't think he was going to last for a year, and here he is over 2 years later, and he's still around. He's not feeling well all the time, but he's still around, and I'm still enjoying his company, and I'm just going to go with it. That's what we do. Because if I get too stuck in what's going to happen, how's it going to happen, why is it happening this way, I'm not even going to notice that he's in the room with me, and that's not something I want to give him. It's just amazing to me how we can move through these human experiences, and we can look at just one simple story in the Bible and see how it actually pertains to today. Right? How would I feel if I was Jesus and I had that burden to carry, knowing that I was going to be showing something extraordinary beyond anything imaginable, but I couldn't tell anybody, I couldn't put anybody's mind at ease. I had to temporarily let down my friends, Mary and Martha and Lazarus. I had to let down the people that were following me, who I told, drop everything you're doing and come follow me, and now they are following me, and I'm doing this. It's all about trust. I believe there is a divine order unfolding. How am I going to play my role as it's doing its thing. That's something for you to think about this week with me. And so it is. Amen. All right, we're going to take some of